This is my 2020 model of the Braxton Creek Bushwacker Teardrop camper. It's equivalent to the 2021 model, the 10FB model. It has two doors, one on each side. It's a 13-foot long teardrop camper. I bought this teardrop in March of 2020. I gave an owner's review on YouTube on January of 2021. I'll put a link to that if you'd like to see that review. This is a follow-up. Since that time, I've used the teardrop camper on a number of trips, and I've had some additional issues with 5 features or accessories that either broke or didn't work as well as I'd like to work. If you'd like to see what those 5 issues are and what I did to resolve them, stick around and I'll give an updated review of the Braxton Creek Bushwacker Teardrop camper. In my earlier review, I talked about issues I've had with the brakes. They were really focused on the controller, the Curt brake controller, which plugs into the car, and I had problems with it falling off, and I kind of resolved that problem using some of the bungees here. But since that time, I've actually had a problem with the brakes, and I've had to take the tires off and work on the brakes and replace the electric magnetos, and that was unexpected because the teardrop isn't that old, and I would think that the brakes would have lasted a lot longer. To replace the magnets, I removed the tires and the drums, and the magnet looked a bit worn. I didn't test it, but I went ahead and bought online 2 more magnets, and they were fairly easy to replace, and they seemed to resolve the problem with the brake controller not working. And I've used these brakes on a number of trips, and now they're working very well. The second issue that I've had, and I mentioned it in the first video as just an annoyance, but it's the foam pad that comes standard. It's one of the issues is that you can't wash it, you can't take the top off of the pad, and it's also fairly thin. They say 4 inches, but I don't think that it is, and it's not that comfortable. To resolve that, I bought a closed air cell foam, a memory foam that I put on top to add an additional 2 inches, and then I use blankets and sheets. Now, the size of the mattress in the teardrop is sort of not a standard size. It's a little bit smaller than a queen size. So for the pad, I got a full-size pad, 2 inches thick, and so it doesn't quite go all the way to the edge, and it also doesn't quite go all the way to the end, which is fine for me because with the heater output right here, I didn't want the foam pad to be right against the heater. So this size seems to work fine. You could buy a queen size, but you might have to trim it and cut it out in order to make it fit. This adds a lot of comfort using this sort of a double up. And if I had to do it again, instead of the 2 inch, I would have probably got the 3 inch. Even though the 2 inch is adequate, I think the 3 might be even more comfortable, and it probably wouldn't interfere with any of the doors or the heater. So I've resolved the issue of the uncomfortable bottom mattress that you can't even clean by adding on a memory foam mattress that I was able to buy online. A third issue I had was actually with the heater. Now, I don't use the heater a lot, but I did go camping in the winter a few times, and sometimes in the morning it's a little cool and I'll turn it on. The original thermostat was really an inexpensive piece of plastic, and the thermostat itself, which you adjust or turn on the top of the old one, didn't work well, and when I went to turn it and move it, the plastic broke off, and so I replaced the thermostat with this one that's made by Suburban, and it seems to work a lot better than the one that came stock. And it didn't cost that much. It was maybe somewhere between $10 and $20 and an easy to fix. But it's kind of annoying when the stock one was so cheap that it broke after using it only a few times. A fourth feature that I really don't have a fix for yet is the water tank. Now, the tank works fine. I mean, you can fill it up with water. The problem is I don't want to haul all that weight around. It's a lot of weight. And when I do use it and I fill it up, the tank has a drain plug at the bottom, but I don't know where the plug is for the hose that goes to the sink. And when I use the tank, the sink hose seems to go dry, and there's still probably 5 or 6 gallons left in the tank. And so it's kind of wasted water that sits in the tank, and I have to drive around with all that weight. So I don't think the tank is really designed to efficiently use all the water that's in it. So I find myself oftentimes on a weekend trip, I won't even use the tank. I'll just take a 2 to 5 gallon jerry can of water and use it like as if I was tent camping. I enjoy cooking out of the backside of the camper. It's nice because you're outside. I think that's one of the advantages of a Teardrop versus a real small camper where you're kind of cramped and have to cook inside of your sleeping area. So I do enjoy it. And I noticed that in the new 2021 versions that the kitchen is completely remodeled and it looks a little bit more functional maybe than the 2020 model that I have. And the fifth issue that I've had with the Teardrop camper is one that I haven't been able to resolve yet, and that is the inverter. So the inverter takes shore power and it converts it into 12 volt so we can charge the batteries, run the appliances, also uses the shore power to run the air conditioner. And the inverter has not been working for a few months. I've not been able to resolve that. I don't understand all the electronics that well. I did get a hold of a couple of the RV dealers here near me, and they're booked solid for months, working on various RVs. So I haven't been able to get this resolved yet. Probably won't get it resolved until the fall. But it's a bit of an issue because I can't really use shore power to charge the batteries through the inverter. So I've got a battery charger that I carry with me, and I charge each of the batteries separately. And that seems to get by, but it's not ideal. I don't use the air conditioner very often, so the fact that I can't use that, that's really the only appliance that I can't use that doesn't run off of the battery. But having only had the Teardrop for a year and a half and not having an inverter to work or have it break after a year and a half, that's an issue. So I'll be curious once I take it into an RV dealer to get it fixed. Whether it's a simple fix or whether they need to replace the whole inverter, I won't know yet until I take it into the RV dealer. Well, those are the 5 issues I've been having here in recent months. In spite of those issues, and I obviously haven't resolved them all, I still am really enjoying the Teardrop. It seems to fit my needs. It's fairly easy to move around. It doesn't weigh a lot. It's more comfortable. So I like the concept of the Teardrop. It's a production model, as I mentioned earlier. It's not a custom Teardrop. So the quality is pretty good, but it's not excellent. And I don't understand why some issues, particularly the brakes and the inverter, why they went out so soon. Time will tell. If things keep breaking on it or don't last very long, then I may change my opinion about the Braxton Creek Bushwacker. But for now, I'm just dealing with it. I wish things didn't break and they work fine, or maybe were designed a little bit better, like the water tank. But like I said, I still like it. I still enjoy it. if you have a Braxton Creek Teardrop, specifically if you have this model, I'd like to hear what your comments are. You can leave them below. And if you'd like to follow my adventures with my Teardrop and my other adventures, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on one of my senior moments.